Yeah, what's the deal? Everybody gotta say, I said, basson, passe, una capa respect that quala la qua. So when you're doing spiritual readings and you're in the business of doing readings, spiritual readings, you gotta make sure that, one thing I learned, that you gotta make sure the client understands what's going on. And the people require a lot of patience, because you are really, as an advisor, a spiritual advisor, you are really on another level. And you got to be able to explain what you're doing in a simple term so that your clients understand what's going on. Because some clients don't all the way understand what's going on, and you have to really ask questions and spend a lot of time with the people to make sure they really understand what's going on. You see, and I know it's a lot, but in business, the people are your boss. So you got to have an understanding with them, because, you know, no refunds over here, buddy. Everybody is satisfied. But you got to understand what's going on. Make sure the clients understand. Because you could be talking and doing the reading, and they not understanding that you're doing the reading. And I don't understand how they not understand sometimes. But you don't say that to the client. You just make sure, okay, so whatever questions you may have, you know, but also remember too that it is retrograde. So a lot of people going to have a lot of questions unless you are air sign, you know, unless you a Virgo, Libra, or whatnot, you know, but on the fire end, you don't have to work. So that's what it is with what's going on. But the public make you so. Hey, Charlie, what you got? Why you got that in your mouth, Charlie? What is that, Charlie? Charlie, what you doing with that in your mouth, Charlie? Charlie got a brick in his mouth, a wood in his mouth, like beef jerky. But anywho, we gotta pay attention. That's what. That's what you have to watch. You know what I'm saying? That's when you have to watch. That's when you have to explain yourself and be very clear. You know, client consultations. Be very clear with client consultations and readings. That's all I'm saying. Make sure you understand. They understand what's going on. But I'm proud of myself today. Because in business, you got to have emotional intelligence. And spirit is emotion. So I'm working on my emotions through my spirit, which is your subconscious mind. And I've had plenty of examples of that. I know Tauruses, earth signs are out the dope. Them Tauruses, them Leos, them Tauruses and Leos. And one thing about Leos, they got to feel like they in charge. If they don't have a sense of being in charge, sometimes they get a weak understanding. So you got to be able to explain that. And they try to feel like they going to put you to work being a Sagittarius. But that's when you got to go really spiritual and really do things spiritually. And then that's when your emotions and your understanding is understood. And, you know, and sometimes you got to give people a little bit more time. You know what I mean? And gather yourself together and make sure that they understand, because readings is this morning, giving readings. You got to be able to ask questions and interpret things to them from them on a higher level. Meaning, like, you seeing things in the spirit world, but you got to be able to interpret what you seeing in the spirit world, in the physical world, to where they can understand you and what's going on. Other than that, they not going to have no understanding. A lot of people don't take the time out to do that. So I try to get a real clear understanding. And sometimes still people don't understand, and that's when you go with the spirit for sure. So one thing I know is that we fight against the spirit and not against the flesh. And with this being in retrograde right now, the communication and miscommunication is strong, and everybody's trying to put fire signs to work, especially Sagittarius and different things like that. Really trying to put them to work and make them work longer hours. But it's not on you, it's on the Most High. So with that being said, peace to the gods. I love myself.